Still southbound, 75 miles an hour.
Get out of the car! He's gonna go!
Okay, go for fire.
It's a crime trend.
Stop, please, stop!
We've seen again.
Failing! Get on the ground! Now!
And again in Western Washington.
Stay down! Hands up!
Violent crimes involving children and teens skyrocketing.
We're seeing kids as young as 12 and 13-year-old committing these crimes.
Leaving police and the community alike.
There's still babies getting locked up and re-locked up.
With one question.
Is the juvenile justice system working?
We may not be able to save everyone and fix everybody.
All I need is that moment. If I can get the ground, the soil, I can plant the seeds in there.
This is a reminder for me that there's still work to be done.
This is a King 5 News special report. Underage and Under Arrest. From carjackings to shootouts, police in Western Washington have seen an increase in serious crimes committed by teenagers and kids. This year, King 5 reporters looked into the spike in juvenile crime in our state, why it's happening, and what can be done about it. Thanks for joining us for this special edition of King 5 News. I'm Natalie Swaby. Drew Andre brings us the first report in our series, Underage and Under Arrest.
You've seen the headlines. I've reported on it.
Well, Jake, that teen in custody is just 16 years old.
Kids committing violent crimes.
Our top story this morning, more gun violence at a Seattle school.
I got 5.
Law enforcement experts across our region say the trend has hit a boiling point.
I've been with the Renton Police Department for 29 years now, and it is the worst that our officers have probably dealt with in that time. We were seeing kids as young as 12 and 13-year-old committing these crimes.
Renton Police Chief John Schultz says his city's stunned by the increase of juvenile crimes, especially the ones where kids are carrying guns. Renton data shows police were called to reports of juveniles committing crimes with guns almost 3 times more often in 2023 than the year before. This year, they've seen a dip, but the number is still almost double pre-pandemic statistics. One crime that really stood out, armed robberies at gas stations and convenience stores. The last 2 years, those went from almost non-existent to a serious issue among kids.
The brazenness, right? Youth going into a convenience store and doing an armed robbery on a clerk, and the impact that's going to have not only on that victim, but on our entire community.
It's not just Renton. We've gathered crime data in all 3 of Western Washington's most populated counties. In Everett, King 5 found before the pandemic charges against juveniles for gun crimes, robberies, and car thefts didn't surpass 25 in a year. In 2024, they're on pace for more than 80.
When you see this, what goes through your mind?
I think it goes to show, I guess, how accessible these weapons are to the youth when they shouldn't be.
To this young woman, these aren't just numbers, but her painful reality.
My name's Layla Adam. I'm 20 years old, and I'm the older sister of Mubarak Adam, who passed away, or was murdered actually, this January 23rd of 2024.
That day, 15-year-old Mubarak was with friends, waiting for a West Seattle Community Center gym to open to play basketball.
Seattle police are still searching for answers tonight after a teenager was shot and killed inside a bathroom at the Southwest Pool in West Seattle.
He was dead on scene. He never made it to an ER or to any emergency room.
8 months later, there's been no arrest.
So that's about as far as we know what has happened.
Those close to the investigation think there's a juvenile out there who hasn't been held accountable.
The mourning is constant. Sometimes you do get busy and I wouldn't say you forget about it, but it goes to the back of your mind. But I think especially in happy moments is when you mourn the most. Sorry.
We're all asking the question, why is this happening? We spoke with 6 experts, from juvenile courts to law enforcement to community leaders. They believe there are 3 main drivers at the root of this crisis. Kids are getting easier access to guns. Current public policy calls for less accountability, and maybe most important, the lingering impacts of the pandemic. You said something to me that stood out, that the pandemic caused a bubble that has burst. Yes. What do you mean by that?
We are seeing young people who didn't have opportunities to engage with a caring adult. We are seeing young people that didn't have healthy meals And when young people were faced with adversity, they went back to the skills that they learned in their trauma-informed spaces.
Antonio McLemore runs a community center that serves kids and teens in Tacoma.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning, good morning. A lot of these crimes are happening in my community. I know that there are a lot of, I know a lot of these youth.
At the Eastside Community Center, there's a colorful mural. It represents the children in Tacoma who lost their lives to gun violence. A list more than 40 names and growing.
Elijah Crawford. I know Elijah Crawford.
Another documented phenomenon from the pandemic, more Americans bought guns and kids got their hands on them. Prosecutors tell us access to guns is driving the spike in serious crimes, and they're almost always stolen.
So when young people are displaying a behavior, they're trying to communicate, they are screaming from the mountaintop that they need help.
McLemore says the kids using these guns often have something in common.
Because what you find is that there's a lack of caring adults that were in their spaces to help equip them to process through their emotions, to give them emotional language.
Back in Renton, the department was frustrated by arresting the same kids for serious crimes over and over.
What's happening with the system where, we're doing our piece arresting them, but then we're seeing them on a continuing basis.
Eastbound across.
This March, Renton PD decided they weren't going to simply arrest kids and move on anymore. They changed course to stay more involved, coordinating with prosecutors and showing up in juvenile court to advocate for tougher consequences.
Since May, we've seen a pretty drastic decline.
This is a reminder for me that there's still work to be done.
There's no easy solution, but everyone we spoke with agrees it's going to take more than just money and resources. The key is collaboration.
It can't just be the city's job. It can't just be the teacher's job. It can't just be the family's, the parents' job. We really need each other. We really need each other. And that's what I have hope for.
Drew mentioned the death of 15-year-old Mubarak Adam. We checked in with the Seattle Police Department. As of November, police say the case is still open, but there are no updates. Now we go behind the scenes of the juvenile justice system to find out why many of the same young people are committing serious crimes over and over again. With juvenile crime trending up, King 5's Jim Nelson shows us what's working and what isn't inside Juvenile Hall.
Like clockwork, kids and teens are paraded before a judge. A snapshot of time in the juvenile justice system.
A group of kids looking for homeless people to beat into serious injury.
A small sampling of the roughly 750 cases that cycle through the King County Juvenile Courthouse each year. Kids barely 14 up to 16 accused of armed robbery, stealing cars, and violent attacks. The numbers show a troubling trend. This year in King County, nearly 500 juveniles have been locked up.
We're talking about more serious crimes.
According to Chief King County Juvenile Prosecutor Jimmy Hung,
the numbers aren't great. I think there's somewhere around 51%.
Of the 500 in jail, more than half come back.
There's a general belief that 10% of the kids cause 90% of the problems.
By comparison, when prosecutors keep juveniles out of the formal court process and instead send them to what's called diversion programs for help in the community, those kids fare much better, with 10% in King County, not 50 reoffending.
How can we use our system, use the court system to identify what are the risks and needs of these young people?
King 5 has analyzed data from our 3 most populated counties and found juvenile crime, especially serious crime, is on the rise. In King County, crimes committed with weapons are climbing, with 2024 on pace to exceed pre-pandemic levels.
All right, now.
Among the county's frequent flyers is 16-year-old Tyshawn Pinckney of Kent.
It was hard.
He and his dad say the trouble began during the pandemic.
I was always getting bored at home. And I was just like, you know what, I just want to go out. And then I found this, I had this one friend and he was just bad, you feel me? And so, I started to hang out with him more. He encouraged me to sneak out and don't come home, just run away and stuff. I did some really dumb stuff and I got caught up.
He's not quite sure if he was 12 or 13 when he had that first run-in, or even how many times he's been arrested.
The very first charge was a misdemeanor. It was a traffic violation or something.
His dad, Jerry, guesses he's been in custody at least 10 times in roughly 4 years.
No parent wants to,
here's a child being arrested, you know. So it was heartbreaking. I was hoping that, you know, that can never happen again. It shouldn't happen again.
But it kept happening, and the crimes grew more serious.
Theft of motor vehicle, robbery, and then, honestly, I don't even remember.
In and out of juvie, where Tyshawn says the treatment didn't seem therapeutic, but more of a punishment with shame and boredom at the center of his days.
Some of the people in there treat you like you're nothing. You know what I'm saying? Like, they treat you like an animal. When you're in there, it's kind of depressing. And like, you just have to, you just look at some walls all day.
King County says they work hard to enrich the kids' lives in custody. There's school, a new music program, classes on independent living, substance abuse help, therapy dog programs, and more. All that costing the county about $800,000 per year, yet the recidivism rate isn't budging.
Certainly it's not perfect, it's not a science, but a lot of what we're trying to do is embed a lot of these resources in the community, because it's great that the court has an ability to respond to it, but you know, we're only here during court hours.
Plea of not guilty.
Young people need to be, you know, held accountable. They need to be kept within boundaries.
King County Council member Reagan Dunn is an outspoken advocate for holding juveniles more accountable.
You give them a lot of rope to do the things, but if they're messing up, you got to tighten the reins.
For decades, there's been a bitter battle over what to do with juvenile offenders in King County, including whether or not to lock them up at all. Soon after the new detention center opened in 2020, the county executive advocated closing it down.
Councilmember Dunn?
Aye.
Councilmember Dunn led the effort to squash that idea, with the full council voting to keep the facility open.
Closing the jail would have been catastrophic for recidivism in this community, and it would have been flat out dangerous and irresponsible to the citizens in our county to close it and send those kids back essentially out on the street.
You know, having my son go through that.
Back in Kent, Tyshawn has been out of the system for nearly 2 months now, his longest stretch since his first run-in.
I got a little brother, so it's just like, and he looks up to me, so it's like, and he's like kind of like me, so it's like, dang, I got to be there for little bro.
But the numbers prove many fail to break through.
Is the juvenile justice system working?
It's working as best as we can. We're like the ER. Like, people come to us in crisis, and we may not be able to save everyone and fix everybody. And that doesn't mean that the ER is failing or not doing their job. It might mean that the people that are showing up are too damaged. It might require us as a community to figure out, why are so many people coming to the ER in the first place?
The question everyone in the system is trying to answer, and the clock is ticking. In Seattle, Jim Nelson, King 5 News.
Crimes for this age group are spiking, especially in one area. Still ahead on Underage and Under Arrest, the gateway crime law enforcement says is making the problem worse. Welcome back to Underage and Under Arrest. With juvenile crime on the rise, we're finding one has spiked more than others: car thefts. As King 5's Drew Andre reports, law enforcement experts say that's leading to an increase in more serious crimes committed by kids.
A quiet night quickly erupts into an attack. The weapon? A stolen car. Scurrying in, a team of thieves. Law enforcement says more often than you'd think, kids are behind the mask.
They find a soft target, they just keep going until they, can't anymore.
Businesses are left picking up the pieces. Like #cannabis in Redmond. We were there in September after their latest break.
And this is now the 5th time in the last year that it has been targeted.
And every time, it's crushing to a small business.
Probably $30,000 to $40,000 worth of damage to the building. So, we're probably around $200,000 worth of damage at this point in the last year alone.
Wow.
The cars that ripped through this dispensary are a part of a trend in our state. In King County, compared to 2019, juvenile felony charges for car thefts were twice as high in 2023. And in Pierce County, compared to 2019, car thefts by kids more than tripled in 2023. This year, prosecutor's office data shows we're on track to have even more.
What's the role that car theft specifically play in these trends of crime that we're seeing with the youth?
Yeah, it's the start of any other crime that you're going to think of. So if you're thinking about the gun violence, you're thinking about, again, the armed robberies or burglaries, you got to steal a car first. That's the first step.
Sergeant Darren Moss of the Pierce County Sheriff's Department and other law enforcement experts call car thefts a gateway crime. They believe recent laws are contributing to the increase. Like the 2021 police pursuit law that only allowed officers to initiate a chase if they had a reasonable suspicion of a violent crime. That law was reversed this summer. And a law that's still on the books doesn't allow minors to be questioned without an attorney. It was passed to protect youth from coercive police tactics. But law enforcement says the outcome is a lack of accountability.
And what we're seeing is that we're not necessarily getting to address the lower level crimes, and it's leading to an increase in our violent crimes continuously.
Antonio McLemore runs a community center that serves kids and teens in Tacoma's east side.
I think what the pandemic did is it created all these silos.
This summer, he told us since 2020, he's seen more kids lose their connection to school and sports, and he's watched the most vulnerable stray to crime.
And when young people were faced with adversity, they went back to the skills that they learned in their trauma-informed spaces. And this is what we're seeing in our communities, is young people that, that weren't equipped for the world that they're now in. It can't just be the city's job. It can't just be the teacher's job. It can't just be the family's, the parents' job. We really need each other.
Overall, auto theft is down, but why are more kids stealing cars today than we've had, 5 years ago?
Law enforcement has made strides to stop it. There's been a number of arrests of so-called Kia boys, a group of young people that leveraged a design flaw in Kias and Hyundais, and then made car theft popular by posting the videos on TikTok.
We've taken a lot of the big players out. Instead of them stealing 20 to 30 cars a month, that's just 5 people can change the entire statistics for the whole county.
Meanwhile, victims of these crimes, like #cannabis, are still dealing with significant losses, anxiety, and questions about how to stop the fallout from car thefts.
My staff feels it, we feel it. There's many nights where I can't fall asleep till, I wake up at 3 a.m. and have to look to see is everything okay? Because I'm well, maybe this will be the night that I'm driving to Redmond again to sweep up class.
Drew Andre, King 5 News.
Still ahead on Underage and Under Arrest, we show you the efforts to get at-risk kids the help they need to stay out of custody and in school. Welcome back to Underage and Under Arrest. We're taking a closer look at efforts to turn the tide, how to keep kids from entering the juvenile justice system in the first place.
Approaching Wayne Aurora, about 75th Aurora.
16-year-olds and a 15-year-old are here, booked into the Juvenile Justice Center.
Good afternoon, sir.
My oldest daughter, Amaya, she came to visit me. She's about 3 years old at that time, She was like, so Dad, when are you coming home? That made me think hold up, is there more to life than this? And if there is, then how do I find it? This is Yester Terrace. This is where I came to when I was little from Texas, man. It was the first place I was brought up.
For Devontae Parson.
I used to get jumped, you know what I mean? There was times where I was robbed, and this is when I was a little kid.
That background has motivated him to make a change, bringing new ideas and tactics to stop a trend. Younger kids in Washington State involved in crime.
Something that could just make myself be better.
In this room full of teenagers who've been in trouble before,
hanging out with the wrong people,
he raises the question.
What do you think is something that needs to be put in place to help you not have to go back?
I have people here like you guys to keep me on the right track and make sure I don't revert back to doing those negative people, hanging around those negative people. It's gotten way easier.
Devontae's working to empower at-risk kids at a pivotal point in time.
I've been with the Renton Police Department for 29 years now, and it is the worst that our officers have probably dealt with in this time.
King 5 analyzed data from our region's 3 most populated counties and found juvenile crime, especially serious offenses, are trending up. Take Pierce County. Compared to pre-pandemic years, crimes such as assault and robbery are on pace to increase by 60% this year.
We pair your young people of color in these underserved communities with mentors.
He started a nonprofit calling it Pro Se Potential,
where we teach kids life skills, critical thinking skills.
He's working to convince teenagers to make better choices than he did.
Actually, because I did a bad decision and it kind of ended me up there.
These 4 are in the program.
And I'm here every day. You know, I want to be here to show up. I want to be able to get my life together.
Joshua Wielden is 18. Andreas Moran is 16.
I never really had anyone to reach out to before I met Pro Se and all them.
17-year-old Michael Franklin and his 18-year-old brother Lionel say they're learning from Pro Se Potential's mentors.
They found their path. They're helping us find our path.
Devontae's work involves going into the youth jail.
All I need is that moment. If I can get the ground, the soil, I can plant the seeds in there.
He also holds sessions like this one,
Open transformation or open development, and that's
giving teens a place to talk.
On their own, but you need help. That's something I had to really learn, that I need help. I can't do everything on my own.
I feel that, brother.
And one day y'all gonna be the mentors, man. That's how it go.
Devontae says Pro Se Potential is working with the majority of the kids in the program getting a job, staying in school, and staying out of jail. On the same streets where Devontae used to commit crime,
Devontae.
Man, nice to meet you, brother.
He's back with his plan to prevent it, inspiring young people to choose education and career opportunities over gangs and guns.
There's so much work to do, man. There's still babies dying. You know what I mean? There's still babies getting locked up and re-locked up.
Because I love to do stuff, especially for the community.
Building that connection, that's the point of it. We could probably save lives doing it. Hey.
Still a lot of work to do. Thank you for joining us for this special edition of King 5 News. You can see our full series on our streaming app, King 5 Plus.